we've talked a lot about being wrong, what it means, what it feels like, and most of it all with a negative connotation, right? There's a inherent or perceived negative view of what it means to be wrong and why that's bad. Um, so trying to kind of combat that a little bit and show why it's maybe not negative, but I actually want to take it a step further and explain why being wrong can and should be viewed as a positive somewhat. You can even go as far to say, not to be dramatic, but being wrong is almost a gift. Um, you might say, well, what is that? Is it around humility? Is it teaching us how to be wrong, like teaching us how to be humble? Yeah, for sure. There's some of that. If you take it in that way, but in somewhat of a more logical view, it's a gift because it's a data point, and data points are always valuable. So it's a data point where if we know we're wrong or we're relatively certain, um, it's a great opportunity to check your math, quote unquote, right? Your mental math. You had a belief, you had a view, you took an action, you made a decision. As we always talk about, there's some analysis that went into that. There was some mental calculation that went into it and led you to that. And in this particular case, for you to have been wrong, and for it to have meant something, right? Probably it's something you were relatively sure of, right? To be wrong, you have to have kind of taken a stand, made a statement, conclusion, etc. So you kind of have the answer to the equation. You understand what your answer was, where it was off, right? But you also have the opportunity to go back and check your work and see what happened, what went off there. So firstly, let me touch on the checking the work piece. To check the work, you need to show the work to yourself. But I think part of the value or benefit of being wrong is the opportunity to do that with others. If there are others involved in that situation, or maybe it's a conversation or an argument or whatever, admitting you're wrong, as we've talked about, right? There's value in that for sure. But showing your work, I think, is particularly important because not only does it give the other person insight into how you were thinking and perhaps showing that you were acting in good faith and whatever it might be, or that you're mature enough to try and learn from your mistakes. So you kind of get that value of it for sure. And it kind of models that too. It models that behavior. It lets others learn from it. It's a valuable thing. But after you show it, the checking it part, there's an opportunity there for you to really get into the weeds of how you assessed, how you weighted, how you valued certain things. If it becomes evident that some of your actions don't make sense, perhaps there's a blind spot there or a bias that you're not aware of. There's so much to be gleaned and to be taken away from being wrong. Um, it's just the opportunity, I think, is one that we too often overlook, though. For the reason we talked about in other videos, it's so uncomfortable being wrong. It's such a negative. We focus all our energy in that, or try and deny it, to protect ourselves, and that forces us to miss this opportunity, to miss this instance where you can really learn more about yourself. So I think that's the important step to be taking here. Whether you're wrong publicly with others or on your own, take that time to look and see what went into your analysis. Really check that mental math and try and do it at a level in which you don't allow yourself off the hook, right? We talked about in a recent video about the subconscious mind and how it's trying to protect ourselves. So in many ways, as you go to check your work, we talked about being wrong is like going into a fire. It just feels like you should stay away from it at all costs, and it's something that our instincts tell us to stay away from. So that's what you're combating. As you try and check your work, it's like you're hanging out, you're pushing right into the fire and just spending time there. You're really almost, rubbing your mind's face in it that you got this thing wrong and why you were wrong and why you were off. So the humility that it takes to do that is certainly relevant. The mental toughness is certainly relevant. But I think as you start to do it, you'll see the benefits are worth it enough that it's worth going through. And you can then take those data points, and it's just more evidence for you to understand where does my mind break bad? Where are the flaws? Where are the obvious, trigger points or slip up points or weak points? And when you start to know that, and you can use that to try and improve, to try and reflect, to try and combat some of the things our mind does, that can be really, really valuable.